What would you do if your car broke down in the most dangerous place imaginable? A town where your very presence could get you killed. Bob Marley was about to find out. And what happened in those 8 terrifying hours would not only save his life, but transform an entire community in ways that still seem impossible to believe. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell because we uncover the hidden gems that shaped the legends we know today. March 14, 1978, Highway 82, Alabama, 2:17 a.m. Bob Marley's tour bus broke down on a dark stretch of highway. Steam poured from under the hood, and they had nowhere safe to go. "Where are we?" Bob asked his tour manager, Danny Sims. Danny checked the map, his face growing pale. "Harvest Creek, Alabama, about 5 miles ahead." They were about to walk into the most racist town in Alabama. A town where the Ku Klux Klan held public meetings. A town run by Sheriff Billy Thompson, who had spent 30 years making sure people like Bob Marley weren't welcome. The 45-minute walk to town was tense. Harvest Creek looked like a nightmare. Dim streetlights, shuttered shops, eerie silence. Population 3,747. Below the town sign, a hand-painted message. "This is a Christian town. Outsiders move on." Mel's Diner was the only place with lights on. Bob pushed open the door. Conversation died instantly. 5 white men stared at 4 black men with dreadlocks like they'd seen aliens. The waitress clutched her coffee pot tighter. "We need to use your phone," Bob said politely. "Our bus broke down." "Phone's broken," the waitress whispered. It was a lie. "Is there a motel in town?" One man laughed bitterly. "Boy, you ain't from around here." The door chimed. Sheriff Billy Thompson entered like he owned the place. 6 feet tall, 250 pounds, granite face, Confederate flag pin on his uniform. His eyes held decades of hatred. "What do we have here?" Billy drawled. "Our bus broke down, Sheriff," Danny said carefully. Billy's eyes moved over their dreadlocks, dark skin, guitars. His hand rested on his weapon. "We don't help your kind here." "We're not looking for trouble," Bob said quietly. Billy laughed without humor. "Trouble is for—" He used a racial slur. "Walking into my town." "They're instruments," Bob said, indicating the guitar cases. "Sure they are. You boys are coming with me. Public disturbance, suspicious behavior." Billy arrested them on fabricated charges. The tiny jail looked unchanged since the 1940s. The cell was cramped and humiliating. "You picked the wrong town," Billy said, locking the door. "In the morning, I'll call some friends. They'll want to discuss respecting local customs." He meant vigilante justice, the kind that had terrorized black communities for generations. But Billy didn't know his 16-year-old daughter Emma was awake and had heard everything. Lived where music was forbidden, books were screened, questions met with violence. 3 months ago, she'd bought a small radio. Late at night, she tuned into distant stations playing music she'd never heard. That's how she discovered Bob Marley. The first song was "No Woman, No Cry." She didn't understand everything, but she understood the feeling. Pain, hope, the message that despite darkness, everything would be all right. For a girl who went to sleep hearing parents fight, who flinched when her father came home drunk. Bob's music was revelation. She'd been planning to run away, counting days until her 17th birthday. She'd even written a suicide note. But then she heard 3 little birds. The message that every little thing gonna be all right made her want to try one more day. Bob Marley had saved her life without knowing her name. Until tonight. At 3:30 a.m., Emma crept to the jail. She'd heard her father calling Klan members. They were meeting at sunrise. "Are you Bob Marley?" she whispered through the window. Bob studied her face. White girl, maybe 16, with bruises she was hiding, scared but determined. "Yeah, he said gently. "What's your name, sister?" "Emma Thompson. The sheriff's my father." Something shifted in Bob's eyes. Understanding, recognition of familiar pain. "Emma, why are you here?" "Because your music saved my life. I wanted to say thank you before they—" She couldn't finish, but Bob understood. In the darkness, Emma told Bob her story. Growing up where hatred was religion, a father who preached God's love Sunday and beat his family Monday, a mother who'd stopped speaking, about the hidden radio and songs that made her believe somewhere. People understood being trapped. "I was going to kill myself," Emma whispered. "I had pills saved. Then I heard you sing and thought maybe there's something worth staying for." Bob felt tears. This white girl in racist Alabama had found hope in his music. "Emma," Bob said quietly, "what happened isn't your fault. What your father does isn't who you have to be." "But what if it is?" Bob began singing softly. "Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be all right." Emma started crying, not silent tears learned to hide from her father, but open, honest sobs. "You don't have to be like him," Bob said. "You get to choose who you become." At 5:45 a.m., Billy arrived with 5 armed men, church deacons, town council members, community pillars who spoke of Christian love Sundays and planned terror weeknights. When Billy opened the cell, he found his daughter sitting beside Bob's cot while Bob played guitar softly. Emma's face looked peaceful for the first time in years. "Emma!" Billy roared. "Get away from him!" Emma looked up with something Billy had never seen. Not fear, clarity. "No, Daddy," she said quietly. Billy's face reddened. He raised his hand to strike her. But Bob stood up. "Don't," Bob said simply. The word wasn't shouted. It was spoken with such quiet authority that Billy stopped mid-swing. "She's my daughter," Billy snarled. "She's a human being," Bob replied. "She deserves better." Billy's friends moved closer, hands on weapons, the moment balanced on a knife's edge. Then Emma did something that changed everything. She started singing. "One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right." Her voice was thin but pure. As she sang, something impossible happened. Billy Thompson, Alabama's most racist man, who'd spent 30 years spreading hatred, began crying. "Stop," Billy whispered. But Emma continued. "Hear the children crying, one love." "I said stop," Billy shouted, but his voice was breaking. Emma spoke her truth. "Daddy, I've been hearing children crying my whole life. Me crying, Mama crying, because you think love means hurting people different from you. But this man taught me what love actually is. He taught me I don't have to hate to be strong." Billy stared like seeing his daughter for the first time. "He's one of them," Billy said weakly. "They're dangerous." "Dangerous?" Emma laughed sadly. "The most dangerous person in my life has been you. You've hit me, terrorized me." This man spent one night talking about hope and love. Which one sounds more like Jesus? Billy's hand went to the cross under his shirt. His wife had given it to him 20 years ago. "I don't understand," Billy said. "That's okay," Bob said gently. "Understanding is the first step." Bob walked out of that cell as Billy's guest, They walked to town center as the sun rose. Word spread quickly. People came out, curious why their sheriff walked peacefully with a black man with dreadlocks. In the middle of Main Street, Bob began an impromptu concert. He started with "One Love." His voice carried across the small town, reaching hearts closed for decades. People gathered, children drawn by music, women who hadn't heard anything beautiful in years, even some men from the jail staying at the back. Bob sang "Three Little Birds," "No Woman, No Cry," redemption song. When he reached "Emancipate Yourselves from Mental Slavery," his eyes met Billy's. Billy understood. For 30 years, he'd been enslaved by hatred, chained to beliefs passed down by his father. But listening to Bob sing about redemption, watching his daughter's face light with hope, Billy realized only he could free himself from those chains. When Bob finished, nearly 200 people stood in silence. Many were crying. All had been changed. Billy stepped forward. In front of his community, fellow Klan members, he did something shocking. He took the Confederate flag pin off his uniform and dropped it. "I've been wrong," he said. "I owe you an apology. I owe my daughter an apology. I owe this town an apology." Bob extended his hand. Billy looked at it, knowing that shaking it would change everything. Then he grasped Bob's hand firmly. Some people left, disturbed. Others stayed. Slowly, a few began to applaud. Emma ran to her father and hugged him for the first time in 5 years. Billy held her tightly, whispering apologies. By 10 a.m., a mechanic fixed Bob's bus. By noon, 3 families offered their homes for rest. By evening, the story reached newspapers. But the real story was what happened in months and years following. Billy didn't become perfect overnight. 30 years of hatred don't disappear instantly, but he began changing. He resigned from the Klan. He started attending church to learn about love, not network with bigots. Most importantly, he rebuilt his relationship with his daughter. Emma finished high school and went to college. She studied music education and returned to Harvest Creek as a teacher, bringing music programs to schools that had never valued arts. The town began changing. The Outsiders Move On sign disappeared. Black families moved to Harvest Creek over the next decade, facing challenges but not systematic terrorism. In 1999, 21 years later, dying Billy told a reporter, "That night with Bob Marley wasn't when I became good. That was when I realized I could choose to become good." Emma, now 37, was at his bedside. "You did God's work too, Daddy, when you chose love over hate." Billy smiled weakly. "That was Bob Marley's music working through me. Music can reach places words can't go. Touch hearts arguments can't change." When Bob died in 1981, Harvest Creek held a memorial service. First-time black and white residents gathered for common purpose. Today, visitors see a monument in the town square. In memory of the night music changed hearts. March 14, 1978. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. Bob Marley. Emma Thompson, now in her 60s, serves as mayor. Under her leadership, the town became known for music programs and racial reconciliation. People ask how one night could change so much. Emma said recently, "It wasn't the night that changed everything. It was the choice to let that night mean something." She paused, looking at Main Street now featuring a Bob Marley mural alongside civil rights heroes. Bob said music is healing of the soul. That night, a whole town got healed. But healing isn't one time. It's a choice you make every day. That's the real lesson Bob taught us. Not just to love each other, but to keep choosing love, even when it's hard. Bob Marley didn't cure racism with a song. but he created a moment where love was stronger than hate, where understanding overcame fear, and where a father and daughter found their way back to each other through music's power. If this incredible story moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs reminding that change is always possible, no matter how entrenched hatred might seem. Have you witnessed a moment when music bridged seemingly impossible divides? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget that notification bell for more amazing true stories about moments when music reminds us of our shared humanity. Because as Bob Marley proved that night in Harvest Creek, Alabama, one love, one heart, and the courage to listen to each other can change everything. Even in the darkest places, against the longest odds, love finds a way. One song at a time, one heart at a time, one choice at a time.